What's up out there in the world of the internet? I see you back there, way in the back. I see you. Hey, I'm Robert Hamm with Robert Hamm Photography. You can catch me on Twitter at RobHammPhoto. You can even find me on Facebook and YouTube at /Robert Hamm Photography. Today, we're going to be going over how to use Adobe After Effects on the Microsoft Surface Pro 3. And I'm looking forward to this. I've been messing around with it. And of course, as you can see, I've got my Mac and everything in the background. But you know, this is a pretty interesting little device right here. And if you'd like to see what we're producing today, I'll go ahead and give you a nice little preview of it. There you go. Okay, so that was it. I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned, and let's get started. So here we are. The purpose of this tutorial today is really to show you the capabilities of the Surface Pro 3. I have the i7-256 with 8 gigs of RAM version. And I'm sitting here at my desktop in my studio. And of course, you know, we just did a pan through. So see I've got a Mac and my green screen in the background and a couple of things set up. But right here is just a real quick render of something I'm working on for another one of my channels.
The way of the warrior is the path of quick thinking.
So a real quick, just 10-second introduction that takes us into another channel that I've got. That's my Karate Rob channel. Go on over to YouTube and subscribe, youtube.com/KarateRob. If you'd like to see the new series that I'm working on, it's going to be pretty cool. But in the meantime, this is the Surface Pro 3, and I want to start with just creating a new project and kind of talk about, I got my little list of things here I want to talk about. Basically, a quick down and dirty tutorial on how to use After Effects. Okay, so I've been using things like Lightroom for quite some time. Okay, I've been using Photoshop as well for quite some time, and I thought that getting into something like Premiere Pro, or not Premiere Pro, but After Effects, I thought that that might be something that's a little difficult, or you know, I like to take pictures of my food, why not? I thought it would be difficult, but the reality is all of these Adobe products are very similar. And so when we come over here and open up even something like Photoshop, there's quite a bit of similarity between the way I work with images, and I've been using Photoshop for almost 20 years now, 19, 20 years. So there's a lot of similarity in Photoshop as well as there would be in Premiere Pro, but more specifically After Effects. Premiere Pro is what you would use to create the video. After Effects is really your special effects that you're going to do. You can create really awesome title effects and sequences. So we're going to create a new project, okay? And that's basically just we're going to save the one that we've got. Come on, save. Okay. So now we've got a new project. Notice there's no compositions or anything down there. So think of your project as your folder. And the place where all of your composition and your work is kept. It's like a container in that respect. So we have to actually do something. As you can see, there's nothing to do. So from here, we're going to create a new composition. Now we can do that by right-clicking over here. We can also come up here and just click File, New, Composition right here. On the composition, Control-N. So when new composition comes up, a composition is exactly what it sounds like it is, what we're composing. It's something that we're making. And you're going to see that we've got a lot of different types of settings. My project is a default project. It's just an open project. This one right here, my comp 1, we'll call it. We can title this test video. Right, and we can see that we've got all kinds of things, but number one is 1920 by 1080 because I want this to be 16 by 9 widescreen format in high def, 29.97 or 30 frames per second. If you keep it at 29.97 and you're using footage that is like from your camera, like camcorder or cell phone even, then then all of your frame rates will be the same. If not, then you'll have to, in Premiere Pro, tween a frame or add a frame here or there. The program will do it itself, but this just makes it easier. And you can also set all of these other things, but for right now, all we care about is 1920 by 1080 at 29.97. You can choose 24 if you'd prefer, or 60, doesn't matter. And then we're actually setting a duration. Very important, how long is this going to be? and we're actually setting 30 seconds. I'm going to set 10 seconds here. Great, now it's created, and you can see if you look over here, we've got second timelines right there, so these are just seconds. So we can't do anything yet because this background layer is not a background layer. It is just a blank void. It could have been any color that we wanted, but it is just a void. There's nothing there, so we have to create a layer. And the first thing we want to do, just like in Photoshop, layer, new, and we're going to create a solid layer. And in this one, I'm just going to call it my background. And I'm going to make sure that it's make composition size, square pixels, 1920, 1080, boom. Now, I chose to allow this background to be black, okay? It does not, however, have to be black. It could be green, red, purple. It is just a background layer. It could also be white, and we can actually change the color if we want to. But I'm actually going to put a gradient layer on top of this. So we're going to come over here, and if you look and see, your workspace can have many different layouts. When you first open, you may have a layout that's something like this, okay? Or you may have a layout that's like what is considered a standard layout. Okay, that's not very helpful for most people, especially when you begin animating. For me, I like to change my standard layout to all panels, okay? And by doing it to all panels, everything that I could get to is on the screen, and I've got my composition, my workflow. You could have more than one of these little tabs up here, by the way, as well. I also have my project file, where I'm going to show all the files that I've imported to use, as well as whatever other files I may need, as well as, you know, a contents, like what's actually happening. I'm going to have my actual layers and my timeline, which are down here. All your layers that are on top will be labeled number 1, 2, 3. So if you switch layers, 2 would become 1 if it was on the bottom. And then over here, you're going to have your preview. Your spacebar does something different than just start and stop. It starts, stops, and does a RAM preview. A RAM preview actually generates whatever preview that it needs in order to show you the effects that you have applied. And that does not always happen at real time. We'll see that in a minute. But as we continue, this is an audio slider. Because I'm not working with audio this time, I'll take it all the way up. And then that allows my effects to come down. Another one that I like to keep up with me is, see down here, I'm pointing at character. Text that you have will all be adjusted under character. So don't forget about that one. You can move it around if you want to. We can swatch it, but you definitely want to be able to get to it. And notice when you scroll these things up and down, they expand and contract automatically. So that's where we are. That's a little tour as we walk around. And the next thing I'm going to go back is going into my effects and presets. I'm going to slide this down because I want to be able to see my effects and presets. So now we want to go ahead and change this color right here, and we can do that a couple ways. But the easiest way to do it right now is to actually search for the TINT command, and we can find that over here just by typing in TINT under effects and presets. Now remember, I have expanded and contracted mine, but if you are using the all panels workspace, you will actually find effects and presets over here to the right. Now there are some odd things like gradients are called ramps. We're going to use a gradient later. When you want to change colors of a solid object like this, we're really going to start changing the color using the tint command or the tint correction. It's a color correction. If you use change the color, like change color to, you have to have an input source and an output source, something that is a little bit different than what we're talking about. So generally, tint is the easiest way to change a color. Now you can drag it directly on top of the layer since we only have one layer. And you saw that highlights very easily by that little triangle. So we're going to map the blacks. It's very important. You're going to map black to black, map white to white. This is where we would change it. I can select my color now. Boom. There we go. So now I've got white. Okay, great. Now this as it is, we're going to talk about these little stopwatches here in just a second. But as it is, this has created a 10-second instance of this background. Okay, and we're going to do something fun with it. But this kind of looks plain. It doesn't look too interesting. We're going to come up back over here to effects and presets, and we're going to type in ramp. And when we do, you'll see gradient ramp pops up. And since it's popped up, we can come over here and select it. We can come over here and drop it. We can come right here and drop it because this is titled to the correct place. So we will do that. And notice that when we do, we get this much more interesting looking space. Now, You can do a lot with this. So we're going to come over here and have our start color turn into red. We'll have our, actually just slightly, we can have that one turn right here. Okay, good. And so we've just changed the gradient, but if we make it something a little bit more distinct just for these purposes right here, we'll be able to see that this horizon line that we've got can change based on how we move that little camera where the gradient is beginning. Notice you'll see there's an anchor point right here, and that's the anchor point for the start of the ramp, okay, the start of the gradient. We can move it left and right, and we can move it up and down, okay. And then if you look right here, you'll also see there's another anchor point. We can now tilt it, okay. Now we're tilting it up and down and actually pulling the ramp further. Here, the ramp is now going in this direction, this gradient, and we're pulling the gradient off the screen, and now we're pushing the gradient back on the screen, okay? So now we've got this really interesting space, and let's say this is where we wanted to end up. There's one more thing I want to show you real quick. You can also do a radial ramp, which is pretty cool if you want to just have some interesting space. Notice how you can also pull these guys around on their own, and the more you move it, the more you get it. Let's go back to linear, however, and make sure that we've got this space right the way that we want it. So let's say, okay, let's say this is where we want to start, and we're going to start we're going to start this here. We're just going to add a keyframe, okay, and then we're going to go forwards just a few seconds, move the ramp down some, and we'll move this one up some. And then we need to get that angle just tilted just right. Right there. Great. So now if we come back over here and we start again, we should see how this just drops straight through. Escape will always bring you back to a beginning point, wherever the last one was. So now as we're looking at this, we see that we've got a ramp, a gradient ramp. Now let's look and see what would happen if we had changed it. Let's, we're just going to hit U on the keyboard from this layer, and it's going to show us all of our keyframes, and it's going to show anything. Actually, that's what U does. It shows your keyframes. So instead of showing all of these options, it just shows the little blue keyframes right there. Okay, great. So let's see. We created ramp animating a still image. Okay, this will be cool. Come up here, go down to import, and I'm going to just import a file. So when we import this, notice it gives us some questions. Import composition, footage, or composition while retaining layers. Edit layers. And if you have many layers, it will ask if you want to edit those layers or maintain their ability to edit, or if you want to just merge layers into a footage style. I suggest maintaining your editable layers if you have a multi-layered item that you want to come together, such as, let's say you had, you know, an X inside of a diamond. Well, if you wanted that to show up as just an X inside of a diamond, great. But if you wanted one side of the X to animate in, the other side of the X to animate in, and then the diamond to animate in, you could create that file in Photoshop and then import it by keeping editable layer styles, and then you'd be able to animate each layer on its own. This is just one, so it's easy. So let's see, what do we have? If we double click on this for dough, it'll pop up and show us what we've got right here. Okay, and notice it's just kind of showing us that. So let's go back to here. This is in our composition. We want to go back to test video. Notice how down here now I'm gaining additional pieces, and as we look, there are multiple pieces to this that I can edit. Okay, so we're just going to come over here to test video. I'm going to come and select one of those pieces. Okay, which is that one. And now I'm going to go ahead, come back over here, and bring this onto my timeline. There we go. Now, it looks different for a simple reason. The black is transparent. Okay, just like in Photoshop, a layer mask is transparent. A layer mask is black. Okay, white is visible. So all of this area right here that's on the outside, that is this deep black, is the actual color of a transparent image. Yeah. Got lots of people calling me. Okay, so that's transparent. But the inside of this that looks kind of highlighted all funky, well, that's the actual color of the image. And we get to see that on the test video, and we've imported it right here. So let's go ahead and just look real quick. Okay, it would be cool if, as this came in, that the first instance of this being visible at 100% opacity, and we can come over here and we can just click on this layer and type T, and now 100% add a keyframe, come back, come to opacity, and just drag it all the way down to 0. Now watch. So notice how it doesn't automatically show up, it just fades in. It fades in as the curtain is coming down, okay? Which that's pretty cool, okay? So that's not it. That's not the only one. So now we've got text. The nice part is, because this is a Photoshop file, right? It actually came in, and we were able to see the entire file with its file color on the timeline. But if you ever bring in an image, and the image will only show for like 2 frames, 1 or 2 frames, and you can't see here, I can click and drag. Do you see that? If you can't do that to your image, and you notice that your image isn't locked, then the way that you can overcome that is by right-clicking on the layer, going to time remapping right here. Well, that just reversed it, escape, and then allowing that to remap to whatever you want. Once you enable time remapping, at that point in time, you will be able to adjust it. It will add keyframes, and you'll be able to completely adjust whatever you want. I'm going to delete that, though, because I don't need it. And so there we go. So now we've talked about animating a still image. Well, not exactly. Let's talk about where this guy is. Let's talk about his scale. To access his scale right here, we're just going to push S. We're still on the layer. We're going to use our keyboard and push S. Notice how scale came up. So if I wanted to, I can animate his the scale up and down. Okay, and if you go too far down, it'll flip over. So I can animate the scale. I can actually bring it up just like that. And so we're going to set a keyframe. And so everything before the keyframe, we're going to make not only big, but also small. So it's fading in. Okay, we don't care, but there we go. So let's check it out. Okay, so looks like, let's go ahead back to here. Okay, it looks like when I deleted the other one, we lost opacity, but I'm going to go ahead and get some opacity. We're going to set our scale to here, and we're going to bring our opacity up to here, and I'm going to set a keyframe. I know I did this before, but when I deleted a second ago. We're going to set our keyframe by hitting the stopwatch. Now that we've hit the stopwatch, there's a little spot for the keyframe, and we're going to go ahead and allow that opacity when we come over here to be 0. 0. Good. Now, when we play it, we won't see it. We'll see it fade in and get larger. Okay, great. If you want to see all of your editable locations from transform, anchor point, position, we're going to use our position. We're going to set a keyframe because that's where it currently is, and we're going to now move it from where it is. Okay, so now that we've got it all set up, we've moved our object off screen, and as we animate it, not only is it going to scale and the opacity going to come up, but it's also going to move on screen where we want it to move. Just like that. Okay? So let's look at this. All right. So we're really just trying to show you how you can move these things. So we've gone ahead, we've used position, scale, and opacity in order to animate this. So let's look back at our object that we've got, and we're just moving it in. And if we wanted this to glow, we'd come over here and we'd type in, of course, glow. And as we do stylize glow, you can just grab that, pull it right over here onto this. Now we can actually see that it's glowing. You can see it can do all kinds of different glowing things. This is an internal glow. I usually like the alpha channel, and then we can decide how it's actually going to glow, right? So if, let's say we wanted this to kind of fade in, right? Let's change this up just a little bit. let's say we started right here at around 200 with our glow. We're going to set a keyframe. In fact, we're going to move back some. We're going to move back to right around here. And we're going to set a keyframe for our glow. Okay. And then we're going to move forward just a little bit. And we're going to bring our glow to here. Okay. So that should have created good. Now we're going to go back over here and we're going to change our opacity. We're going to come back to our opacity. And we're going to get rid of all the opacity changes just by clicking that out. We're going to set a new one at 0. There's our keyframe. We're going to come right over here to where we were just a second ago, and we're going to bring our opacity to 100%. And now when we look at this, we can see it fades in from the background. And because we've got this animated here, we could have some text that comes across with it. Let's look at that again. So we can actually change our opacity just by dragging our keyframe for the 0% over and allow it to scale and glow at the same time. So now we've got this object that's kind of zooming in. Nice. Okay, so there's glow. We kind of like that. Now, yeah, if we didn't like this top color, we could very easily come back over here to our gradient ramp, and we could change map black to, we could just change the color. Oops, wrong one. Okay, start color. Boom. Start color is black. Okay, end color can be a dark gray. Only working dark gray. Well, how about that red? Ooh, it's kind of nice. Yeah, I like that too. Okay, now let's check it out. That's kind of cool right there. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so here we are moving it just in our X. Here's our Y plane. So we can actually animate now, moving left to right. And as we do, I'm going to pull this towards us just a little bit. So we're going to add a keyframe. Okay. Now you'll notice as we do, the animation, very similar. I kind of like it this way a little bit better. I don't know if I wanted the scale so much. Fades in and eases on over. This is a great time for us to begin adding the last little bit, which is text. Now let's come on out here and turn my graph viewer off, and we'll just come back and see where are we. We're right about here where we stop. Good. Okay. Notice how our diamonds have changed forms. That's because we're using an ease in or an ease out expression, which just allows this movement to take place without abruptly starting and stopping, and just makes it look a little nicer. From here, we're going to add some text. So let's go up here. We can just as easily add a text layer, but I'm just going to grab one that immediately added one for us, and as we put it over here, boom, text layer, and Bushido, the warrior. And I'm going to add another one. In this case, I like what we've got here. I'm just going to copy my layer by Control C or Command C and then Command V, Bushido. And this time I will move the layer. So we're on way. I'm going to Control C, Control V, Control V. There we go. The way of the warrior. Okay, so now we've got it. Bushido. Okay, so here we are. We've got our layers. The only thing we could do, now we're actually going to go ahead and lock this puppy down. I don't want to touch that background anymore. Okay, good. So now the background is, you can't select it. It's just unselectable. Delete that. That's the particle layer. Gone. Okay. All right, so I don't want to mess with my animation right now anymore either. So we're going to go ahead and lock animation down. And then this V right here, I don't know which one it is. I do actually want to start doing some scaling work, and I want Bushido to be big. And so I'm going to attack Bushido and hold the Shift command so that I can make this larger. I'm going to create some just kind of kinetic text. It's not going to move to words, but I don't like this. You have to grab it first and then push the Bushido, which is the way of the warrior. Now, as we continue this from here, I know this is getting kind of long, but we're going to insert the entire Bushido in here, and we need to begin getting all this stuff clipped up. So I've gone ahead and selected my bottom layer, hit shift, and then selected the top layer. Now I can move all this stuff together. Now we're going to go up here, and I want to view grid line. I'm going to show rulers because I want to do some stuff. Okay, so we're about 150 pixels in. We need to be about 150 pixels in over here. So I know now that that's as far as it'll go, and I need to create a ruler that'll help me right here, the top, and then one for the bottom. Bingo. Okay, I like that. So now that we've got those rulers, we can come back to our layers, select the bottom one, shift, select all of them, and then just grab and move. Great. So at this point in time, we see what we can do. Now I'm going to take Bushido. I'm going to move Bushido up to the top. And actually, now that I think about it, we're going to have to stay within, if that's 150 there, we need to be about 150 here. Okay, and so I might move this one back just a little bit. So once again, we're going to click all of our layers, grab them, and move out. Okay, I'm just going to move out. So, great. Okay, so these are my guides. So this is where I'm trying to stay within right now. And so I come back up here. Shift is going to get it back to normal, and then we're just going to bring him right there. Boom. Now we're within. Come down here to warrior. Click on warrior. Okay. Shift. Actually, we're going to move warrior since it scales from the bottom. It's going to snap to this grid, and then we're just going to up it just a little bit. Great. So the way of the warrior. Great. So now you notice those two are in there. And so now we can start playing around a little bit. Okay, now we've got to remember something. This is actually not Bushido. This is the word do. That's here. So there's some things that we can do to emphasize it, but before we do, we're actually going to go ahead and bring in our other characters and animate them in here. So the first thing we're going to do is import file. I need Boo and She. Okay, I think I can get this. And I'm going to get that just by clicking Control. So now they're both highlighted, and then import. Okay, great. So now I've got Boo and She, so I can put Boo and scale it down. Where's the scale? Shift. I want to scale it and shift right here. Okay, I'm going to come over here to my other. And where is my dough? So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to Control C, and then I'm going to right here, and I'm going to Control V. Great. So they should both have. Let's just Control V. Oops. Command Z. Command Z. Well, I wanted to grab this radius. Control C, and then hit it up here on Bushi. Control V. Control V. Good. Effects, and I want to get on She, and then Control V. So you can see I should have an effects, and I should now have a glow in there. Great. So when I look at this back over here on my composition, I should be able to see. Okay, so in order to kind of see this a little bit better, we're just going to come over here to my effects control. We've got our alpha channel. This is Boo, and you can see it's kind of been moved and stylized and everything. And what I want to do is put the glow behind it. Let's see. There we go. On top. Perfect. And I want to put it on top, and then I want to absolutely bring my glow up. Boom. Well, now I get to right around here. We're good. Boo. Okay. Now we're going to make it bigger. I want it to take up this entire place. Bushido. Good. And the reason I want it to take up the entire place is because I've got some other things I want to happen. Okay, so these transparencies are going to go away here in just a second. All right, so let's look at it. Okay, so you can see these things are just kind of popping up, and we've brought them in. And let's actually go to where we want to be, which is right around here. Okay, so all of these pop up at the same time. We can actually bring them in with some opacity. You could actually fly these words in if you want. I'm going to go ahead and turn the view off of these rulers, and I'm going to turn the view off of the grid lines or guides. Okay, no more of that. Bushido, the way of the, this should be a different word. It should be warrior. What happened here? So let's do it. W-A-R-R-I-O-R. Now we're too big, so that's okay. The way of the warrior. Come back over here, select our selection. So maybe we still did need our guides, but I think we'll be fine just like that. Looks good to me. We want it to fade out before the other one fades on, so we're going to go ahead. It fades up, and it should begin to fade out now. So we need to now have, in our below, we need to have an opacity layer, T. Once again, I didn't want that one, I want the T. Right here for opacity, T. Okay, so we need to be right there. Okay, so we put a keyframe here, and then by the time we get to here, we're going to change it to 0. So we now have a second keyframe, so it's gone. So you can see it builds in and then fades out. Now the other one, this is great. This is the she. Okay. Now let's go ahead and lock that layer. Okay. So over here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring this guy up, and I want to press Shift, and I'm just kind of bushy. This symbol that looks like a little person is part that tells us about the warrior. Now we actually have to come over here to the radius and everything. We've got to change how this guy glows. Okay, because we want to be able to see just like that. Great. So I think we were right around there. So let's animate that and see. Up. Good. In. Good. Now the next one, and we'll adjust these a little bit more. Good. So we're going to lock this guy. Now, so let's just see. Okay, good. All right, so let's go ahead on back, bring all this back up here. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to take our she, and we just want to kind of grab both of these guys together and move them over just a little bit so they all have about the same amount of time to do their thing. Okay, and we can even move that guy back some, move these guys forward some. Okay, and now let's play from here. Okay, so what we see is we need this to move back some more. Good. Up and gone, up and gone, up and gone. Yeah, excellent. Okay, great. So now we can actually, great. So now that we've done that, we can actually come back in and animate this text. This text. Luckily, this is a lot easier. We're going to narrow down our workspace by grabbing the smallest tiny little handle you can possibly do and dragging it over so that we're just seeing frames. Notice they're counting off by seconds. This is 1 second, this is 2 seconds, this is 3 seconds, and it's 10, 20, 30 frames per second. Well, we already know it's 29.97, but we'll say 30. So where these guys begin is fine, the 10 frame mark right here, if you notice. Okay, but Bushido is the first one, and we'll just highlight this next clip up. The Bushido is the first word. It's here. It's fine where it is. The. We're going to bring it back 1, 2, 3 frames. That's more like 5. The way. Way gets an emphasis of. A few more back. The. Right about there. Warrior. Okay, bingo. So now let's see what happens when we animate this. Again, we're going to have some of our other stuff come into play, but that's okay. Bushido. So we're here. Boom. Bushido. The way. Both of those. The. So that tells us something. That means that the 2 needs to move up. Bingo. Now that has, okay, we know that this needs to be right about here, and then this one needs to be right about here. Okay, great. So we want it to build in from the top to the bottom. The Bushido, the way of. Where's of? Where? Okay, so of is now wrong too. The way of. Okay. Of comes over here. The comes back. Okay. Now, try it again. Bushido, the way of the warrior. Okay, great. So, the way of the warrior. Now, boom. So we don't want our text, the way of the... So we're going to go ahead and select these layers, unlock this guy so we can move him. I'm going to select that all the way up to there. And now we're just going to move it back. Just a couple frames. Since he's got a little build-in, he'll be fine right there. Let's check it out. Let's see what we've got so far. Let's see how this all works. Okay, great. Okay, so that's pretty cool when you think about it. Let's play it again. Okay, Esc. Now I'm going to press escape to stop. What I notice when I look at it, I'm going to bring everything out into the full workspace. The small handle allows you to determine the scale. Okay, the black handle down here, which you can't get because we're all the way in, then allows you to navigate within the scale, and then up here is your actual scrubber. So what I see is, you know, all of this is, I want, as this moves, I want everything to start populating here. So let's go ahead and turn our guide back on. View guide. Great. So what did we say? We said that all of our text came up right about there. So once this opens and it starts to move, when we get to be right here, I'm going to say here because it's moving out of the space, that's when Bushido can come in. So right about here. So I'm using that guide in this line because that's where Bushido is going to pop up. And I want Bushido to pop up. As this is easing out, I want Bushido to come in. And so to do so, we're going to just click. I'm going to shift. I'm going to hold shift and click every other layer, every other colored layer. In fact, I can just come up here and select all of them. And now I'm going to move them until the bottom, my boo, actually hits right where it's supposed to be. And when I put it here, I see it's real close. So let me just back it off 2 frames. Okay, great. We're going to keep those selected, but we're just going to play it and see what happens. Ooh, that's nice. That's real nice. Okay, so we're going to play it one more time because it's so nice, and then we're going to add... Good. Now, when we talk about polishing GameStop, when we talk about polishing this off, we really need to talk about how this comes into play. So let's talk about our opacity layer for the first doe. And I have doe because doe means way of. So let's go ahead and just hit a T for opacity. And that's going to bring me to this layer right here. I'm just dealing with opacities. And I'm on my background doe layer. I'm going to unlock doe and see where we're kind of easing in right there. Boom. Great. Actually, I think I like that. I can actually bring some of the opacity up some. Watch what happens when I do that. So we're going to get a glow before it actually shows up. Well, maybe not that much. Let's bring it to right about here. Yeah, I like that. Let's do it. Yeah. Okay, so from there, everything, once we get to here, can trim out. Okay, we're going to pull this one out. That's our top layer. And it's going to go here, and it's out. Our opacity is there. Actually, he can continue, and he can just fade right around here. Bingo. So everybody has a chance to read and check it out. And so now we're going to bring everything to an end right here. Easiest way to in and out is to use your in and out brackets. I should have known. Say in and out, just like that. So this is my right bracket, and you can do this to all of them at the same time if you want. Watch this. Now, see how they both work? We're going to do this down here as well. All right, there you have it. Now all we need is some snazzy music. All right, guys, so there you have it. We've gone through a lot of things today, and I tried to make this tutorial as action-packed as you possibly could when you're working like I was. I had a lot of interruptions. You saw some things popping up on the screen. Probably took me about 2 hours just to record this in between distractions here or there. I'm actually going to release it. It's about an hour long to create the actual image, and I'm going to release that in some different tutorial type of modes, 1, 2, 3, just in parts to make it easier to watch. But I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you actually get some benefit out of it. For me, coming from Final Cut Pro and Motion on the Mac, it really wasn't that much of a change because they're very similar in the way they interact with keyframes and twining and different things. The biggest difference was trying to do it on the Surface Pro 3. The computer is capable. The computer is more than capable to make this type of graphic and a composition. However, the keyboard cover, which works wonderfully in other respects, and those of you that have followed my channel will know that I was not ever really a big fan of the keyboard cover. And this comes to play in the trackpad. I'm not a big fan of the trackpad. The trackpad's not bad by any means. It's actually pretty good. Windows 10 brought some much needed updates in its responsiveness, and that's something that I like. But using the keyboard cover included with the Surface for anything that has very small, tiny little targets that you have to hit. I mean, think, you got a 13 or 12-inch screen, and you have to hit something basically the size of a very small dot, the size of that spot inside between my two fingers, that point right there. That's a tough thing to do. I don't care who you are. And then using the pen with it, that doesn't work as well either, because although there's not any parallax with the pen that I've noticed, and that it works extremely well for drawing, trying to grab a static, not dynamic object is really tough. However, could you do it? Yes. Could you do it in a pinch? I wouldn't even say you'd have to do it in a pinch. You could very happily create all kinds of different things using After Effects on the Surface all day long. In fact, I use the Surface for most of my Premiere Pro videos that I produce rather than my Mac, just because I've got the Surface with me more often, and it's extremely capable for stuff like that. You definitely need shortcuts keyboard. So if you are going to use the Surface for this type of thing, you definitely need a keyboard cover or a Bluetooth keyboard of some sort in order for it to work well. And as you look around, you can see that I've got a lot of videos coming up, especially with the use of the green screen and studio lights and everything. So I hope that you enjoy. I've got 2 channels that are getting ready to launch. One of them is a Karate Rob channel, and I am Rob, and if you guys don't know, I'm a martial artist. I've been a black belt for right at 20 years. 2000 is when I got, well, I guess not 20 years at all, 2018 or 17, 15 years. I've been in martial arts for almost 20 years. 1995 was when I started formally, and so I got a channel about that coming, and I'm excited to start posting some videos. So that's why the clips that you see happen to be about martial arts, Bushido, Iaido kind of stuff. And another channel is the Morning Meeting. It's coming. It's a daily tech blog that's going to talk about all the latest and greatest in tech, called The Morning Meeting. So I hope you look forward to that. Please like my channel and subscribe if you find anything worth mentioning. Sound off in the comments down below. Once again, I'm Robert Hamm with Robert Hamm Photography. Thanks for watching.